Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Walking Through Glass, the podcast with your host, Dr. Dina C. Brown. Good morning. It is Monday, and it's time for your daily dose of vitamin Dr. D, right? To get you kicked off, because we all need a little bit more sunshine in our life, especially with these overcast days in California. What is going on with that? You know, it's June, and we definitely have some June gloom, which is why you definitely need to be tuning in to your daily dose of vitamin Dr. D. This last week, we talked about truth. Okay, remember we're here Monday through Friday. We talked about truth. So if you didn't catch last week's episode, you definitely want to go back and hear all the little nuggets about really how to own and walk and stand present in your truth to really unlock the clarity that you need to be the best version of you today. Well, in addition to that, I wanted to follow that up with this week, and here's how this works. And I want to just share with you the process so you realize that this is truly raw. This is truly what am I using to walk through the glass? How am I processing through any and everything to get to this next better version of myself, which I am committed into evolving in and being intentional to raising the bar for myself. And the only way you can truly raise the bar for yourself is to find ways that you can add value and actually support others. Hence, Walking Through Glass, the podcast, and me bringing you your daily dose of Dr. Vitamin D. So I kept thinking, this has been a transformative week. Last week was just very interesting. There was a lot of truths, some ugly truths, some angry truths, and some decisions that I had to make about my now because it was impeding my tomorrow. Okay, I'll say that again. I had to get honest and truthful about some decisions I had to make about my now because it was impeding what is coming for me on this journey for my tomorrow. So it made me just recall those incidents where what usually stops you from walking in your truth? What do you need? People ask me, how do you? And so I realized that many things that I choose to do takes courage. And the courage is not the courage where I can go fight a lion and an alligator and a tiger and a bear. Oh my. It's the courage to, again, stand and operate in my truth because I'm very clear about that. So for me to build the confidence piece and for me to confidently be able to walk in this truth, there are some really critical things I needed to do. And on this journey of self-discovery and really finding me, because sometimes along the way, along our journey, and these 47 years, I said 47, these 47 years, you lose bits and pieces of yourself. And as a woman, we can lose bits and pieces of ourselves when we become a mom, when we become a wife, when we become a divorcee, when we become a widow, when we become a boss. We can lose pieces of ourselves trying to live up to someone else's version of us or what we think is the best version of us that other people need. And when we do that, we actually negate the best version of who we are that we need. And so over time, that's what I call we begin to lose a little bit of who we are. So, and it doesn't matter what age you're in, what age you're at currently, because this happens to millennials, baby boomers, Gen Xers, and everybody in between, okay? Is that over the course of time, if you don't walk in a state of clarity, in a state of consciousness, then you are more susceptible to lose yourself. I'm going to say that again. If you do not walk in a state of consciousness intentionally, you are more susceptible to losing a piece of yourself. Okay, now, bringing back to this Monday, this week, what we're going to talk about all this week. This week, we're going to focus on courage. We are going to focus on courage and the courage to do some things. And I had a conversation yesterday with my mom. It might have been Saturday. It might have been Saturday or Sunday. I believe it was Sunday. I had a conversation with my mom, and it involved to why many of us get kind of stuck or stall, or that inner bully can beat us down so bad. And at church, we were talking about forgiveness, and it was just all these different signs and symbols and wonders, and then the word forgive. And this is not just in the conversation with my mom. That's really what's been in my spirit and my meditation. When I've come out of it, it's just this air of forgiveness that was needed. So in the conversation with my mom, we were talking about the power to forgive other people. And we were saying that, people say, well, I'll forgive you, but I'm not going to forget. And so you're holding on to all that residual irritation, frustration, and anger, which is stopping you from really, truly embracing and living your best life today. Because if you're still, again, you forgave them, but you're not going to forget, that means you're telling, by universal law, you're telling your body to hold on to whatever trauma that it's been through. Because usually when you say that to someone, it is not something that's a positive. It's usually something that's a negative. Right? So I've been through some things. And when I had this conversation with my mom, and I said, why is it so hard to, forgive? And we kept fleshing out the conversation. And then we came to the point that it is easier to forgive other people than it is to forgive yourself. And that's where the ding, ding, ding went off for me, okay? Is that the issues that we have that show up physiologically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually comes from the lack of forgiveness that we offer ourselves. Here's what I mean by that. Is that when things happen and we say, man, I wish I would have, and why didn't I? We're constantly playing over that memory tape of something that we didn't do right and how we may be still experiencing the ramifications of that. And while we're still experiencing the ramifications of that, we're not allowing forgiveness to sink in for ourselves so that we can grow to the next level. We hold on to it. And then we're wondering why we have stress and ulcer and inflammation in our bodies, because we're putting all this undue subconscious pressure on ourselves because of something that may have happened, a situation or circumstance that may have happened even many moons ago. And that until we have the courage to forgive ourselves and say, yeah, I messed up. I didn't do that right. And if we forgive ourselves for believing that there's a better life that we were supposed to live if we would have just done A, B, or C, instead of really appreciating who and where we are in the now, it would be different. And it really resonated and hit home when I had the conversation with my mom. And if any of my siblings are listening, you know mom, so just take it in the grain that she is. And she was saying that she was thinking about her children, and my mom and dad got divorced when I was young, maybe a couple of years old. And my mom got remarried afterwards. And then my mom said, my dad was, very quick-witted, and he was attractive, and he had, all these other great qualities and stuff. And we were talking about where do we get many of our attributes from my mom and my dad. And so my mom made the comment. She said, I wonder sometimes what would have happened if I wouldn't have divorced your dad, if we would have stayed together. Because we had businesses, we did this. What would my life have been like now? And so she was speaking that, and then she said her first thought was, she thought to my little sister. And my little sister, who I love and adore, my mom's like, well, you know what? If I had stayed with your dad, then my sister Valeria wouldn't have been born, right? Because she has a different biological dad. And she wouldn't have been born. And she said, oh my gosh, what would I have done without my, my Vivi? And I was like, yeah, I know. And so then she said, okay, my youngest sister. And she's like, well, my youngest sister is going through some things, okay? We all got people in our family, she's just going through some things. And my mom said, well, then I thought, I could have been okay if I hadn't had, And so she immediately goes, oh, I apologize. And she kind of laughed it off. But here's what I then wrapped back to my mom. I said, Mom, you know what? I said, you and Dad had a journey together. And everything that you are now came part and parcel to the fact that you guys weren't still together. And my dad passed of leukemia, of cancer, when I was about 15 years old. And I said, here's what I've learned on this journey, Mom. I said, it is not about forgiving others. It's about forgiving ourselves. And if we stop living in that past life of, if I just would have made this different decision. Because we're talking about walking through the glass, and this is real truth. I'm going to get real with you guys. Some decisions that I made in my recent life in the last few years, I've woken up out of my sleep many times going, God, what have I done? I changed my life. I changed Xavier's life. I was in a situation, a circumstance that was so toxic that I was dying from the inside out. But guess what? I still did things that made it more toxic and set myself up to become a target. I did it because I thought I had to fight when God was telling me just to be quiet. I have something else for you. Okay? And so there's not a day that goes by that I didn't get up for years. Now it's been almost 4 years, 3.5 years. A day that I didn't go by that I was like, if I just wouldn't have done this. If I just wouldn't have done this. But when I sat in that and I marinate in that and I look at what my today looks like, and as I said back to my mom, I said, how can I truly love who I am today if I lament and hate everything that made me? How can I truly love me if I hate everything that made me? And until I forgive myself for what I thought were situations I put myself. And so what I'm really saying is forgive myself for handling it not in the appropriate way. But I can't take back the situation because then I have to take back the growth. I got to take back the learning. I got to take back all the things that made me a better version of myself. Good, bad, or indifferent. I would have to take those things back. So, what do I do? What is the answer? And so when talking to my mom and going through this, and I said, Mom, really what it is, it's about forgiveness. We talk about extending grace to other people. We talk about extending that right hand of fellowship out with people and saying, you know what, I forgive you for hurting me. But have you said to yourself, I forgive me for hurting me? I forgive me for hurting me. I forgive me for putting myself in a situation that I should have taken better control of. I forgive me for making a decision that impacted my family and my friends that wasn't a positive life. I forgive me. Just I forgive me. Extending grace to yourself. So when we talk about walking through the glass and sitting in those positions and going through our days as boss chicks, but yet you're going home and fighting an inner bully because you don't give yourself grace and you haven't forgiven yourself for something you might have done many moons ago. And yes, it caused trauma. Yes, it's caused pain. But guess what? Your body is doing, and this is at a cellular level. This is at a cellular level, people. All of that anger and angst and frustration and fear and doubt and anxiety and shame, you are holding in your cells and it is attacking your body and it's causing you to be sick. It's causing you to be sick. So you cannot find peace until you forgive you. You can go around all day long and calling people that you hurt 20 years ago, that you bullied in high school, and making amends with your family. But until you get quiet and make amends with you, you are not going to live your very best life. So I challenge you this Motivational Monday, this Make a Move Monday, is to make a move and forgive yourself. Spend some quiet time. Go find 10 minutes. Take a box of tissue because it's going to get emotional. And as you begin to pull back the layers, as we begin to pull back the layers together, begin to apply a level of forgiveness. But you have to first make the unconscious conscious. Because if there is something, if you're feeling pain and ailment and fatigue and shame and doubt and depression, I want to tell you that more than likely is because you're harboring a lack of forgiveness. And it may be lack of forgiveness towards others, but your lack of forgiveness towards others is directly impacting your ability to forgive you. Because what you're saying is that, again, if you were with a man who did something to hurt you and you're mad at him, but really, honey, let's be real. You're not mad at him. You're mad at you. You're mad at you because you ask yourself, why didn't I see that? Why didn't I know that? Why didn't I should have saw the signs. Well, you didn't. So now what? You didn't. You were in it. You're out of it. Now, if you want to go live and move past it, I say that you can make a move on this Monday and choose to live and say, what did I learn? What did I learn from that? What did I learn about myself? What did I learn about, what kind of relationships that I'm building? And what do I want to really fulfill me? How do I really get to that state of happiness? So you learn, again, what you want by sometimes dealing with what you don't want and knowing what you don't want, right? 50% of knowing who you are is knowing who you're not. 50% of knowing what you want is knowing what you don't want. And sometimes you got to go through some things and experience some things so that you can get clarity on that. And it's that clarity that then brings you the confidence. Okay? And the courage to forgive them. But really, what you're asking of yourself, which is what's so hard, because you always say, I should have known better. I should have. Why didn't I? It's really the courage to forgive you. Forgive yourself today. Have the courage to forgive. And when you do, you will have the confidence you need to live your very, very, very best life. So I challenge you today, as I challenge myself today, to find another opportunity to pull back the layers, pull back one of those onion layers, and begin to heal. Because your healing is in your forgiveness. I'll say that again. The healing is in your forgiveness. The happiness is in your forgiveness. The confidence is in your forgiveness. The clarity is in your forgiveness. The consistency is in your forgiveness. You can begin to show up very clear, confident, and consistent when you start doubting yourself because you're playing old mind movies of past regrets. So instead of calling them past regrets, let's call them learning lessons. Learning lessons, okay? So what did you learn? How did you grow? And where are you moving to next? Right? Does that sound good? Well, I'll tell you, when I have these conversations and these daily doses, they're not just for you. They are, more importantly, for me. It truly helps me process through everything that I have to deal with and what I call walking through the glass. And here's what I want to assure you. You do not have to walk through the glass alone. I'm here. I'm Dr. Dina. This was your daily dose of Vitamin Dr. D, and I look forward to sharing with you tomorrow. And if you can truly do me a solid, have the courage to share. Courage to share. I know this message is not just for me. I know I'm not the only one struggling. And my mission, my purpose, my calling is to inspire, empower, and to transform lives. And I'm saying that I need your help. That's my calling. And my goal is to reach more than 1 million women to do that. But it starts with impacting the lives of one. And it started with me having the courage to have the conversations I needed with myself. to then have the confidence to come before you and share my truth. And now I ask you to share and do the same. Walking Through Glass, the podcast, is available on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Music Play, Apple Podcasts, and of course our host Podbean. I hope you have a phenomenal Monday, and as we walk through the glass, know that we're going to do so unapologetically authentic. Have a great day. Bye-bye.